My name is Pat Euland. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Duluth and a certified and trained League of Women Voters moderator. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Duluth, I would like to thank the candidates for their willingness to participate in government and this general election forum for the office of St. Louis County Commissioner, 3rd District. The forum will be presented on PACT-TV and linked to the League of Women Voters of Duluth website. The League posts complete, unedited recordings of the forums. Editing is authorized only for official media reporting. Excerpts or edited clips of candidate forums may not be used for partisan political purposes. You may share this forum in its entirety. The League of Women Voters believes that an informed citizenry is the foundation of effective democracy. The League is open to membership for men and women who are interested in nonpartisan civic participation. It is a volunteer organization working at the local, state, and national level to encourage citizens to participate in government. While we as a league do study and take stands on issues, we do not endorse or support political parties or candidates. The views expressed at this forum are those of the participating candidates and not those of the League of Women Voters of Duluth. And sponsorship of this forum is not a league endorsement of any of the individual candidates participating. The League of Women Voters of Duluth realizes that creative and innovative policies and practices are forged out of diverse points of view. We believe diverse perspectives are necessary for responsible and representative decision-making. We will sustain our commitment to welcome and facilitate diversity, equity, and inclusion in all aspects of our work. We strive to include people from a mix of abilities and backgrounds in all of our activities. At this time, I'd like to introduce the candidates for St. Louis County Commissioner, 3rd District. Ashley Grimm.
Hi, everyone.
And Janet Kennedy.
Good morning.
Our forum will begin with the candidates giving a 2-minute opening statement followed by the questioning round. Questions have been vetted by the League of Women Voters of Duluth Forum Committee and questions submitted by League committees and by citizens on the League website. Candidates were not given the questions in advance. Each candidate will then be given up to 1.5 minutes in which to provide their responses to the questions. The questioning round has been set up so that each candidate will be asked questions in a rotating order. After the question round is completed, each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute closing statement prior to the end of the forum. The candidates will now provide their prepared opening statement, and we'll start with candidate Kennedy.
Good morning, everyone. Hello, and thank you for inviting me here today. It's really good to hear that the diversity statement that I helped write on the League of Women Voters is being used here today. And I want everybody to understand that it's just as important on the League of Women Voters as it is on the county board. My name is Janet Kennedy, and I'm serving on my 2nd term as past president of the Duluth City Council for the 5th District. I'm running to serve on the St. Louis County Board to represent neighborhoods in District 3. We know that policies and ordinances impact everyone differently, and it's time to make a change now. I have listened and watched the county board from my vantage point on the City Council, as well as serving as the current president of the Public Health and Human Services Advisory Committee. As a trusted, experienced leader, forward-thinking in the community, we cannot afford to wait another 4 years. Many people's lives are being impacted here in Duluth and across the county. I will be able to step onto the county board with lived educational, business, and professional work experience, keeping us focused on the issues and leading us to quality county services that we all need and deserve. For the past 10 years, I've worked on assessing local community needs in consideration with regional and state priorities and outcomes. The needs are many, and the population and geography are diverse. We make better decisions when everyone is at the table, so everyone has the opportunity to be in the picture. that is why I'm running for County District Commissioner 3.
All right, thank you. And candidate Grimm.
Hi everyone, I'm Ashley Grimm. I'm the 3rd District County Commissioner for St. Louis County. I live in Denfeld with my husband Luke and my 3-month-old baby. And before being on the county board, growing up I helped raise other family members and then went on to work at the Damiano Center and run children and families programming. And what I really wanted when I ran for the county board was to make tangible results for our community, for childcare, for investing in our kids and our families, and actually showing that local politics is something that's not just about talk, but it's about delivering. And so I'm really proud that after 3.5 years, I can say more is possible than I even thought. And I want to show you that because both of us have track records, and I'll show you mine. In the first 3.5 years, I've been able to get historic county investment into the western half of Duluth, even on a board where we have 3 out of 7 votes and where there was a push to not use any of that funding in Duluth when it came in from the national level. This means that we were able to get $250,000 for Gary New Duluth Rec. We were able to renovate the Young Moms program in Spirit Valley. We were able to repair the hockey rink in Piedmont, and then take on big structural issues, like replacing the for-profit healthcare provider that we had in the jails with a local provider who now keeps people on their meds, provides casework after people get out of incarceration, as well as increasing access to veterans benefits statewide and actually eliminating chronic homelessness for veterans in Minnesota, in St. Louis County. Big things are possible, and we need politicians to deliver and work for each other. And I'm so excited about the work that the League of Women Voters is doing and providing us a forum today too. So I want to thank you.
All right, good, thank you. We'll now begin the questioning rounds, and the first couple of questions are on diversity and equity. And the first question, we'll start with candidate Grimm. How can county commissioners possibly address the wide variety of citizen needs that are represented in our very large and diverse county?
So I think there's many ways. So one of the big things that we do as a county is we get out to every part of St. Louis County in our board meetings. St. Louis County is actually bigger than 3 states. Don't ask me to name them because I'm not good at geography. But we get out in our small townships and we talk to rural EMS services and hear when they say it takes us an hour to get to some emergency sometimes. I'm very deeply connected into Western Duluth and make sure that I go to our community club meetings, that I've got the finger on the pulse. And then we've done deep work over these last 3.5 years with our diversity, equity, and inclusion group, including an audit of St. Louis County that was led by our BIPOC leadership team. We hired an equity and inclusion director to actually hold space for that work, and are deeply engaging staff, and more than that, engaging people in the community. We also started the first affinity group for LGBTQ plus staff members, and are making sure, I pushed as a county commissioner that we make sure that we're paying people for their time when they're part of working groups within the county. I used to serve in this building as a human rights commissioner for the city of Duluth, and I want to make sure that when people are on those commissions and giving their input, that we actually get results and have teeth behind it too. So those are a few of the ways.
All right, thank you. And candidate Kennedy, same question.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Grimm. When you say walk the talk, I believe in this instance that would be very important. When we have a diverse board, we know we can make better decisions. I believe that that is what walk the talk should be. Making sure it happens at the top levels as well, not just at the levels where we're overrepresented, people that are BIPOC people that are in the LGBTQ community. We're overrepresented in those systems. We know the systems, we know what has to happen. So thank you for saying walk the talk. So when I ran for office, a lot of folks will ask, what is your top 3 priorities? And I tend to start with what I believe and the things that I've done. I've been able to build commissions, the African Heritage Commission, LGBTQ Commission, working with all diverse commissions and diverse people. I'm grounded in my West Duluth community, and they know I have their backs, and that means everyone. My mom, Annie, who's currently in Alzheimer's dementia care, taught me to feed the poor and clothe the naked. A community of people will prosper when everybody's walking on even ground. My mom grew up as a sharecropper. We understand what it is to live poor and be poor and live in a community where people are not investing in you. So for me, it means really living out, and that's why I'm running. We need a diverse county board just like we needed a diverse city council. And the time to make that change is now. And I'm challenging people to step into that and walk the talk.
All right, thank you. Our next question, and Candidate Kennedy, you will be answering first this time. What role do you think the county board should play in addressing the unsheltered population?
Thank you for that question. That question is really been at the front of a lot of the issues, whether it be at the county level and the city level. Myself and Councilor President Randorf were the first ones that stepped into the conversation of unhoused back when it became a crisis. District 4 and District 5 had many of those community members that were unhoused, and it was really impacting folks that are housed. So they're not congruent in that it doesn't work. A lot of folks are dealing with mental health and drug issues that are unhoused, but there are so many other issues why people are unhoused. That work is at the county. From my vantage point, again, I've watched how we had to, as a city council, had to find more and more money to support that issue. And it finally came to the fact that we had to build an ordinance that actually was the catalyst to push the county to come to the table, which was a little bit before that. Myself, Councilor Randorf, got the county involved because it was county forfeit property. We called the commissioners and said, you've got to come and walk the talk and see what's going on in our communities. We ended up at the table, we ended up with ordinances, and that's the last thing we really want to do, because the only thing the city can do is make laws. Although we found money for the crisis interventions. We found money when the airport, building was sold. The city shouldn't have to be the only one in, but we did go in. The county needs to be the first one in. That public health and human services budget is 11% larger than the whole city budget. We need to make sure we're in the right lanes and the right solutions are coming from the county when it's public health and human services.
All right, thank you. And Candidate Grimm, same question.
I think this is where facts matter because people's lives are on the line. So the county has invested and partnered very deeply in housing solutions, and I've been at the forefront of that. For instance, Plover Place, long-term solutions for Chum, as well as early on, I was a voice to actually have a place for people to go instead of pushing campsites from block to block and pretending that that solves the issue. We do have different opinions in this when we say walk the talk, because I don't believe walking the talk is giving people who are homeless a $200 fine just for their existence and being homeless in the city of Duluth for tenting. That is not criminal behavior. It's also not criminal behavior to increase pretextual stops by making it illegal and a misdemeanor crime to block sidewalks, a misdemeanor crime to have a Sharpie if you're a juvenile. These things make people end up in our correction system. So we have to make sure that we're passing policies that aligns with our values. We also need to remember that people are homeless because there's not enough housing. That's the #1 indicator. So at the St. Louis County Board, we've partnered with over 3,000 units in St. Louis County, over 800 that are affordable. We also just opened up an urgent care mental health clinic because we know that we need to do more, and that's been 10 years in the making. We've been at the table and deeply doing this work, and we need to stop doing the harm that the city has recently done.
Okay, thank you. The next question, Candidate Grimm, you will be starting. How do you balance the environmental and the economic costs and benefits of development in the county?
I think this is a really important question. So The county is involved in economic development in a lot of different ways, and that's something that I've been very supportive of. So one that often comes up is mining. We have mining safety inspectors have been really supportive of taconite mining and responsible mining. It's also our duty to stand up and bring forward concerns about our water, to be real about climate change, and to be aggressively pursuing better solutions. We're also expanding what we think of as economic development in businesses too, right? Childcare is economic development. Housing is economic development, and we know that by investing deeply and providing real solutions that we're helping move the needle in a way that really helps everyone. I'm also really proud of our support that we've done for the film incentive too. When we think about building economies, we now have a space where artists and accountants and people who are invested in the arts now are able to access the St. Louis County Film Incentive on top of the Minnesota Film Incentive. So we need to get creative, build it into our budgets, which we've done, and support broader healthy communities while asking tough questions about environmental impacts that happen on our community.
Okay, thank you. And Candidate Kennedy, same question.
Could you please repeat
Absolutely.
the question?
How do you balance the environmental and economic costs and benefits of development in the county?
Thank you for that question. One of the things I've been really proud of is I was one of the first founders of the Green New Deal housing as one of the executive members and the treasurer assistant. So that's one way we can balance it. We do know that we have environmental warming and we have issues that we need to take care of. But what I'm not willing to do is to do it at the expense of communities who have been using that as a sustainable way of life for hundreds of years. My value is that I need to start at a minimum. I'm not at a yes, I'm not at a no. I know need to support communities. Is mining something we need to do? Yes. Is the newer mining that we keep talking about maybe harmful? I'm not a lawyer, right? I'm not a technician. I need to leave that up to the people that understand it and make a decision. I don't get to say yes or no first. Right now, we need to continue to do that work. One of the things we need to do with economic development is understanding the social determinants of health. So whether it's housing, income, housing stability, food security, public safety, all of that involves economic development, including childcare and living wage jobs. I'm endorsed by the labor unions, AFL-CIO. They understand that I understand the balance of environment and economics. And thank you for understanding and mentioning arts and culture. We need to make sure that our arts and culture locally can continue.
All right, thank you. And the next question, Candidate Kennedy, you'll be first. What factors do you consider when weighing the environmental costs against the economic benefits of non-ferrous mining in St. Louis County?
We touched on that on the last one. We need to make sure all communities are able to come along with those changes, whether it's something that's going to happen or not. Right now, like I stated, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an environmental specialist. I need to hear everyone. Right now, it's so loud on a no that we can't get a good perspective of what's going to happen at this level. Right now, it's not even at the local level yet, and I understand that people are worried about it. But I believe that if we were as worried about some of the other local issues, we wouldn't be where we are in the mental health crisis or the housing crisis or the crisis that people still have a decreased life expectancy. That all happens whether we have the mining or not. We can't get out of our lane when these issues, as Commissioner Grimm stated, affect people's lives day to day. We need to focus on what's going on. I believe if that was happening in the last 4 years, we wouldn't have a housing crisis, we wouldn't have our jails in crisis, we wouldn't have a lot of folks that are dealing with mental health. We'd be farther along, I believe. And that's why I'm running today.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Grimm, same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
No.
Okay.
I believe that being a thought leader and creating a culture of honesty around this is in our lane. Polymet, for example, is on the convergence of the three major watersheds that feed Lake Superior, and that is economic, that is health. In terms of who we lean on and if the information is out there, absolutely the information is out there and it's clear and we ought to know it. If we lean on experts, we know that copper nickel mining has never been done safely in a water-rich environment. What we also know we need is a political culture that is willing to say that and willing to say hard truths and be upfront about it. Because we can and ought to be concerned about all of these things. I don't just work on housing because at the expense of mental health or at the expense of criminal justice. What I've worked on is mental health, housing, childcare, environmental issues. And I should be clear, we don't have direct oversight over Polymet. We do over taconite mining. So we've had unanimous votes on taconite mining and our mine inspections and things like that. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't also be honest and passionate about the broader issues which protect our water and protect our environment. So the information is out there. I think we just need to build a better political culture, honestly.
All right, thank you. Next question, candidate Grimm, you will be first. Do you support the proposed sale of 80,000 acres of school trust land within the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness? Why or why not?
You know, this is something I actually need to learn more about. I think baseline how I make my decision is that we need to protect the boundary waters and make sure that we're being environmental stewards of it. So it matters to me a lot looking at what future use of that land will be. I know, yeah, that's honestly something that I just need to look into more about what the school land trust plan is.
All right, thank you. Candidate Kennedy.
Thank you. I would agree. We need to be environmental stewards of the boundary waters. I have not had the opportunity to go there myself or really any of my family members. Again, we really just need to focus on basic needs. This is so important that I will allow the specialists and the people who are closer to it to let me know how I can help or be a steward or help get the word out. I would just say, again, I don't know enough, so I'll pause there.
All right, thank you. All right, next question, and candidate Kennedy, you will be first this time. What are your top 3 action items to improve the economy of St. Louis County?
So one of the items that I know I've been working on for many years, I spent 15 years in the medical profession and was the director of rehab. I have my own business and I run a nonprofit. We need to make sure that all of us are on the consensus, meaning all community county board members understand what it means when we talk about the social determinants of health, policies and ordinances. I've been a part of that work since before I was on the city council. And so we need to be sure that all of those are moving forward in that vantage point. And when we can do that, we will make better decisions about whether it be public health, economic development, and all of those things. So my top priority is getting a consensus and understanding that all the policies we make, whether we agree or not, are based off of that. And that's how we impact everybody's lives. So I believe you asked me about my priorities. So economic stability is one of them. Again, all of those things, housing, food, childcare, where you grew up and who you are and how you age are all important pieces of that. Education and workforce development, really breaking the pipeline to prison for our young folks through the daycare or through maybe the Spirit Valley Center for Youth Community Wellness project that I've initiated with community members. And then complete communities, which include arts and culture and all of those things. We think of economic development many times as just businesses, but also water plants and all of those other things we need for communities to live and be safe and healthy.
Okay. Candidate Grimm?
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. What are your top 3 action items to improve the economy of St. Louis County?
Yes, so One is increasing childcare. I actually just ran over here from a childcare conference, and we know that we need to build childcare into our legislative priorities. I've been an advocate for that in the past. We've done it. We're working on doing that again in the future, giving direct investment to childcare, and since we license childcare operations, looking at ways that we can streamline that process and advocate at the state level for some changes that need to happen. So I was just part of an intergovernmental meeting working on that. Second, we know that we need housing. We don't have enough housing for the workforce that we want. And so that's why it's been important to use our economic tools and also to think outside of the box. So one of the things that I've helped start pull together that I want to work on in my next term is to manufacture our own housing. I've seen other communities do this. It could be a great training tool for the trades too, where you have apprenticeships, you have students coming in and doing that work, and you produce affordable housing and workforce housing at the same time. So those are some economic tools, as well as direct investment in we've increased our budget in our economic development department. And one of the main things that we do differently as a county is we focus more on tax abatements that run about 10 to 6 years to help developers get across the finish line, but then they have to start paying in taxes instead of the wealthiest not having to pay in taxes for 25 years when we're all running those services still and putting the burden on families.
All right, thank you. The next question is related, and candidate Grimm, you will be first. What would be your allocation priorities in both the operating and the capital improvement budgets?
In operating, one thing I've been consistent about is supporting our staff. So the increase in our county budget this year was actually 2/3 for supporting staff, because we know that we need to be competitive and recruit and retain staff. And especially, we made huge strides in reducing our caseloads for public health and human services. Because when we have too high of caseloads for our social workers, we've seen that increases family separations. And I used to work at the Damiano Center. I used to work with kids before that. I've seen families go through separations. I've seen and worked with families who have dealt with broken systems, and we all have been impacted about that in our lives. And so it's really important that we keep those our staffing levels operational. As far as capital, I would prioritize, well, there's basic needs that we have, like maintaining our buildings, the things that the buildings where we keep our equipment and things like that. But on top of that, we've done a big push to invest in actual capital for housing, capital for childcare, making sure we're renovating spaces so that they don't go tax forfeit. And we've done some really innovative programming around that, where we intervene in tax forfeit land earlier so that other people are able to buy it, and then we're able to keep it back on the tax rolls. So those are a few.
All right, thank you. Candidate Kennedy.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. What would be your allocation priorities in both the operating and the capital improvement budgets?
Thank you for repeating that question. There's so much work that needs to be done, and I'm excited to be running for this seat. So for me, what I've heard, I've been endorsed by the Deputy Sheriff's Association, which is an organization in the St. Louis County. And what we're seeing right now, that is a system that we need to support. And what they're saying is our jails are inadequate, and the work that they need to do is not being done. We need to make sure we start supporting that. There's so many departments that we could pick and choose that need so much help, but that's the one I'm gonna lean on today. The facilities are outdated, they need more staff. That is so important because there are community members who are stuck in a pipeline that end up in jail. Many family members, mine included. I have family members who are in that system. I have the lived experience in looking at operating and capital improvements because I've been on welfare. My family has been in the court system for children that needed to be removed. I don't have to ask other people, but I will, because there's many like me. I have that lived experience right there. So the time that it takes to put together a group of people to talk about it, I'm already invested and on the ground with people that are facing it today. That's the difference between myself and Commissioner Grimm. So really looking at the comprehensive work that the county does and all of the operations, but I just chose the one here today.
Okay, thank you. Next question, Candidate Kennedy, you'll be first. Give examples of how you have been able to work productively with those who do not share your opinions.
I would say my whole life, as a woman who walks, as an African American woman who walks each day and knows that there are people that just don't agree with me because of the color of my skin. And that's the reality. We need to make sure that voices on the county has never been and hasn't been, but I will be the first, and I'm very proud to say that. My community knows that I have their back when I say that. I'm not just limited to that because I have strong roots and I've lived in Duluth almost all my life. So a couple of things, if you could repeat that question, because that's very important.
Sure, so give examples of how you have been able to work productively with those who do not share your opinions.
Yeah, I've served on the city council for the last 4 years. There are a lot of people who do not share my opinions. I know that I'm able to have really good conversations and understanding that it's never a yes or no for me right away. It's a right in the middle. And I take the time to have those conversations, especially with people who disagree with me. That voice is most important because that gives me the level to make a decision based off of not just my own personal values, but the need and the outcomes that we need to come to make the best decision. The county board right now is a different board. There's some folks who have been there for a while who maybe don't support Duluth, but I know I've had conversations with them about what I can bring to that table. And so really right now, diversity is so important in that people don't agree with me just because of the color of my skin. But I've been able to get through, build a consensus, and serve as the president of the city council.
All right, thank you. Candidate Grimm.
Hi. Yeah, I think people deserve examples on things like this. A specific that I can give is, for instance, the St. Louis County Board often didn't invest in youth recreation, especially within the city of Duluth. And so when I first got on board in my first year, I really pushed for $1 million for kids, is what I called it. And at first I heard, no, we don't do youth rec, and we're not going to do it in Duluth. And I was able to work with Commissioner Paul McDonald and as the lead from the north, and we were actually able to pass that. And so that's how we got the $250,000 for Gary New Duluth Rec. It's also how we were able to then open up a Boys and Girls Club in Hibbing and do projects all throughout St. Louis County. I'm really glad to bring to light that in these last 3.5 years, we've taken a lot of projects that start with no and ended in unanimous yes votes like that. It was the same with replacing the for-profit health care provider in the jail. There wasn't a lot of support for that at first, but I was able to build with other electeds, but also with other community members. And I think people have seen in Duluth, there have been recent meetings where almost hundreds of people show up to speak on an issue and they're not listened to. And so it's really important that we're building consensus within the board, which now happens, but also that we're really listening to the community too and thinking of that power in the community being just as important as what happens behind closed doors or during a televised meeting like this.
Okay, thank you. Next question, Candidate Grimm, you'll be first. And the question is, what ideas do you have for how we can deal with the issue of affordable housing? And please define what your idea of affordable housing is to you in your response.
So I was part of the Affordable Housing Coalition and have done a lot of work in this. So I use the pretty supported definition of it's using no more than 30% of your household income. I think we can do better than that, but that's the working definition that I use. And I also believe that there's some units where we really need to have supportive services, which is what I've pushed for in the county and what we help offer and connect people to. So some of the ideas that I have, one, using all the tools that we have, like tax abatement and partnering with the city, which we've been really good partners with lately. But we know that that is not enough. We need to change how we build. So I helped get almost $2 million for Plover Place, which is breaking ground. It's 24 units of affordable housing, and it's coming in at, I think it was about half the cost to build that traditional building has. And we partnered deeply with the city of Duluth for that. I've also started talks about potentially our own manufacturing plant where we could produce our own units. We need to really think of solutions like that, because otherwise we've seen we end up with $195,000 tiny homes. We cannot keep giving money to developers and expecting that doing that same method is really going to get us out of the crisis.
All right, thank you. Candidate Kennedy?
Yes, thank you. I will say that the city methods and the county methods are distinctly different. The county really has the bandwidth and the ability to do supportive housing, to build all of those unique services within housing. That's not the city's role. But I will just say that I've served on DEDA and understand the distinct differences on what the city can do and what the county can do. I really love the idea that Commissioner Grimm brought forward on the Green New Deal housing, which is a net zero carbon housing plan that I helped develop that is working now. We built a house just up by Harborview. What that move forward is not only a different and new kind of housing, but there's a training aspect of that where people are building and learning how to build those houses, working with the labor force. So one of the more unique things I've been thinking about is how does a workforce development reconnect here in the Duluth County? It's connected up in some of the townships, but it's only connected at the city level right now. We need to reconnect workforce at the county. That's one of my unique ideas. One of the other ones is housing for seniors. Right now we have seniors staying in their housing because they have nowhere to go. That is another community that we don't hear a lot about, but they are the majority right now. So I'm thinking and looking and talking with developers about a Pillars of West Duluth. It's a place where you can go from assisted living to memory care, right here in Duluth, supporting all of our community, all of our seniors as they move out of their homes and emptying them for some of our newer families that want to move here.
All right, thank you. And our last question before closing statements, Candidate Kennedy, you will answer first. How will you advocate for St. Louis County at the federal level for funds for healthcare, transportation, and housing?
Thank you for that question. It's been a pleasure to be here. I would say, again, we need to understand who I am and what I come with and the experience I come with and the stories that I bring. I run a nonprofit that brings in $350 or $350,000 on projects. There's a lot of organizations that are closing, a lot of nonprofits that are closing because the COVID funding went away. We've been sustainable. I understand how to do that. And so going to the state and going to the federal government, I bring a unique perspective, not only by my experience, but my professional experience, but my lived experience. And people are listening now at the state level and the national level. So I just believe that who I am, and today, that is a voice that we need to make sure we're getting all the investments, not only regionally, but here directly in Duluth. Who's at the table really matters. Building consensus, I've been able to do that. I've been a leader. I am not an emerging leader. I've been a leader in my community. And I want to make sure that that voice is brought to whether it be at the federal level or at the state level. The time to make that change is now. 4 more years is not what we need. I appreciate the gap that Commissioner Grimm has been in, but it's really time to make a change.
All right, thank you. Candidate Grimm.
Hi, can you repeat the question? I
Oh,
think I
sure.
have it, but I want to make sure I don't miss part of it.
Sure. How will you advocate for St. Louis County at the federal level for funds for healthcare, transportation, and housing?
Yeah. So, one of the important things that I've done over this first term is really get involved with the Association of Minnesota Counties. We know that we're more powerful when we're working together. So we've been able to build legislative priorities and work with our state reps. But on top of that, in this first term, I was actually appointed as a national rep. I went to Austin, Texas, and saw some of the best presentations I've ever seen, but also voted and participated in the Economic and Workforce Development Committee. So it's really important that we deeply engage in these coalitions and statewide and national fixes, because we know with healthcare, this is a national fix. I also support the Minnesota Health Plan, which would bring universal health care to Minnesota, but we know that we need to fight nationally for that. We know that the state and national government are huge players in our workforce development, in our housing, in a lot of these things that affect us, and then the county has to implement services and do it the best way we can. So I'm really active at the county level, and I think that's really important to have 4 years of deep relationships. And I want to also say that I'm supported by Duluth legislators like Representative Liz Olson for the western half of Duluth, and as well as my fellow Duluth County Commissioners, Annie Harla and Patrick Boyle. So those relationships really matter going in and making sure that you're doing the work and pushing full time.
All right, thank you. This is the end of the questioning time. At this time, we will ask each candidate to give a 2-minute closing statement, and we'll hear first from candidate Grimm.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thank you, first of all. Honestly, this job has been really the honor of my career. And the reason I say that is because the county so deeply affects families. And it has been incredible to see how much is possible and how much we can do. So I want to reiterate, I have helped get historic investment into our western neighborhoods, but not just that, I want to share what it means. In Gary New Duluth Rec, we hadn't really invested in that space because it was seen as a city space. The city invests in that. Now they're going to be able to help finish off their skate park and their pavilion and have that project actually finished off. Renovating the Young Moms program meant that they could fully utilize their childcare spaces, and that more women were more young moms were able to live in those units. Piedmont hockey, it means that it'll be a safer rink. They had a coach that had fallen and slipped because the ice was heating up too much. One other investment, the Community Connect in our schools. That meant that now schools all throughout St. Louis County have over 30 mentors working with them one-on-one to increase graduation rates, as well as helping create the community crisis response team and get rid of for-profit healthcare in the jails. What that means is that we're working proactively with people, making sure that when they have a mental health crisis, that's treated like a mental health emergency and not a crime. Some of those things were seen as impossible, and now they're possible, and now they're normal. And that's the dream of what we make in the county. So I also really, I think we agree on some of these principles and values. Both of us would have basically our full terms ahead of us. The voters will decide, and I'm excited about working on shared priorities together, because I think we need to build together in order to make real progress that we need as a community.
All right, thank you. And candidate Kennedy, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. I do want to just state that the city and the county has a lot of shared investments, especially the skate park and all of what was stated by Commissioner Grimm. The city actually put in more money than the county did. And so I was proud to be a part of that as well. So my final words is thank you for allowing me to be here today, and I'm running for County Commissioner District 3 because the time to make that change is now. We deserve excellent county services. Daycares are closing north and south across the county. Lack of staffing, outdated facilities in the jails, and some county workers are feeling they're not being treated fairly. Caseloads are high, workers are burned out, and there are no new positions being approved. That was just stated to me yesterday. On the city council, we have approved more and more funding for public services because it was needed. The city of Duluth budget is 11% smaller than the one department, Public Health and Human Services, at the county. The math is not adding up for me, and that's why I'm running for County Commissioner District 3. My first priority, as I stated, is to foster consensus for county board members on understanding that policies, ordinance, and budget decisions need to be viewed through a framework of a person's and what affects a person's health outcomes, those social determinants of health. These are the conditions in which we are born, grow, live, work, and age. Everybody. These factors significantly influence health outcomes and the quality of life for everyone. As the next County Commissioner in District 3, you will see from me that everyone matters. It will be my job to meet you where you are, supporting, building, and forward thinking on local issues with respect to all people inside and outside Duluth. I have served the District 5 community well, and they know that I have their backs. I look forward to extending my balanced, experienced leadership and maturity to the St. Louis County Board for Neighborhoods in District 3. I am Janet Kennedy, and I ask for your vote November 5th to serve as your St. Louis County Commissioner in District 3. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the candidate forum for St. Louis County Commissioner, District 3. It is our purpose in sponsoring events such as this to provide you with an opportunity to hear candidates discuss the issues that are important to you. There is never enough time to cover all of the issues in a limited time setting such as this. If your questions were not addressed, you should feel free to contact the candidates directly. We hope this helps you learn more about the candidates and the issues so that you can make informed choices at the polls on Tuesday, November 5th. We thank the candidates, PACT-TV, and the viewers of this forum. PACT-TV will broadcast this forum and others. Check their listings for a schedule of times. The forums will also be posted on the League of Women Voters of Duluth website, lwvduluth.org. Again, lwvduluth.org. Thank you.